Okay, so I just got done watching Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Part 1 took place in 1994, and now we're going back in time to the 70s, and it's going to clear up some of the questions we had in Part 1. In Part 2, this is an origin story for one of the killers that we saw in Part 1, and so we see his transfer into madness, if you want to put it that way, and his transfer into chaos, and we see him slaughter an entire summer camp here, which, yes, that is the setting of this one, which for a slasher movie like this is no surprise to the slasher genre of horror. Summer camp is a very popular environment for the slasher. And that is my first positive for this movie, is the environment, the setting of this summer camp. I think they do bring back a lot of the fun and a lot of the nostalgia of why we watch movies like Sleepaway Camp, Friday the 13th, that take place at summer camps. I think this movie does, for the most part, I would say, recapture the fun and the adventure of those movies and why we keep on going back to revisit that. I think the set design and the production value and the amount of money spent on creating these sets and creating these locations and making it feel like a real summer camp and having that energy that summer camp slashers have. I think that is, as I said, I think that is brought in here for the most part. It's not as good as you might think it is. At least for me, it wasn't as good because, the thing about summer camp slashes and just 80s and 70s slashes in general is the thing that makes them good. If you watch movies like Sleepaway Camp, where the acting in that is it's so bad that it just comes off as good, and it's a part of the experience, it's a part of the fun of watching a 70s and 80s slasher, is the cheesy acting. So I feel like that was something that was left out, but I can see why the acting in this is better than average. Since this is made in modern day, and it's a throwback to those summer camp slashes. And that's, I guess, another positive I can say, is the acting in this movie is serviceable by everyone. Our main character is really good. Our main sister, she is really good. She gives a good performance. She's the one that everybody's kind of picking on, so she's the odd one out here, and she's a relatable character because it always has been that odd character that no one wants to be friends with and everybody's picking on. There's a great introduction to her where everybody's thinking she is a witch because she stole this money. Outside of our main group of characters, there are a lot of extras. There are a lot of just throw-in characters that are just there to be killed, and that's it. They don't really have an integral thing that they offer to the story. They're more just there to ramp up the carnage candy in this movie. Yeah, that's really about it. That is a negative I do have with this movie for sure, and I'll get to that once I get to the negatives section. But just keeping it positives, for the people who are on screen just to get killed, they do an okay job at playing that counselor, playing that douchebag, a drug addict type character. They do their job well. I think everybody does an okay job in the acting department. Okay, so now this next point is a mixed opinion for me, and that is the carnage candy, the blood and gore, the thing that us horror fans that we come to expect in our slasher movies. Part 1 most certainly delivered on that, and that still has one of my favorite kills I've seen in slashers in the past few years with the bread cutter kill. And as far as the blood and gore goes in part 2, it's okay. And that's really the only word I can use. It's not as good as the first, which I will get into that later on. But there are a few cool shots in this where there is an axe going through someone's head gets sliced in half, where heads get cut off. Like there are those minor gore moments throughout this that when they happen, like they are really cool to see the practical effects on it, and the makeup and the prosthetics on some of these kills like are really good, and just the practical effects that are just kind of laying around as body parts, as cut off limbs, like all of that looks amazing. Like that is outstanding stuff. As far as the world expanding and the story expanding in the Fear Street trilogy, this movie does an okay job at that. There's not a whole lot more expanded, but there is a little bit more that we do learn. There is a tie-in to the first movie, which I won't get too much into that, which I thought was cool. I just wish they could have expanded like that part of the story out more, because I would have liked to see, like maybe a flashback of like these two sisters bonding. Like I think that maybe that could have been cool. Or just something just to really make this story tie-in stronger. Then besides that, there's really not a whole lot more world expanding that this movie does do. Like this is an origin story, as I've already stated. And as far as the origin story part or segment goes, I thought it was okay. I thought the execution wasn't the greatest, but like I enjoyed it overall. It was fun. It was an interesting story. I've always found origin stories fascinating. I think as far as the reasoning and how they how they start off the origin story, I thought that was really good. By like the whispering, and like that's kind of like the start, and then like there's phases that this character goes through, which I really enjoyed, leading up to him actually finally going to the summer camp to slaughter everyone. The music choices are good here. I wouldn't say they are as good as the first, but I think the music here and where it's placed was okay. There were a few moments, especially in the first two acts, where I was just like, why is this song playing in an intense moment or a suspenseful moment? Because I mean, I can kind of see why, but I don't know. I didn't really enjoy that, because there were moments in this movie where like there's something intense happening, or or someone just died, and they're playing this recognizable like 70s and 80s song. And it's just like it seemed like odd to me, when it would have been better to have like music that kind of more fit the scene. I mean, I understand that this is fun, and like the music is a device to kind of add to the fun of this movie. I understand that, but just for me, there were just like these tiny moments, and that's only a tiny negative. I would say to this movie, it's not something big. It's like I still enjoyed the music choices in here, but just I feel like it could maybe been placed out better. But at the same time, like I don't want to criticize that, because in the end, the music I did enjoy. So now moving over to my negatives. My first negative has to be the carnage candy, the blood and gore. While I did say I enjoyed this, it's not. It is. There's nothing creative that this movie offers as far as the carnage candy goes. It's a lot of like basic kills, like axe to the head, cutting off heads, cutting off limbs. It's just a lot of basic kills like that, and like there's nothing as good as the bread cutter death scene in the first. It didn't seem that these kills were trying to go bigger, better, and badder as a sequel should. It's like it's all pretty basic level stuff. Like there's really nothing in here that will really shock you. Like the very quick deaths. And yeah, there's that. That was the reason why I was excited for this, is because I was hoping there would maybe be a kill better than the bread cutter scene. I mean, I just wanted to see something just like so creative, and there's nothing really creative in this one as far as the carnage candy. Okay, here's the thing. Here's another negative I do have while I'm still on the topic of talking about the carnage candy in this. You have an entire environment. You have an entire summer camp, and you could have not found something around this big place or this big area that would have made for a really creative kill. I feel like there's so much room in this movie for creativity. Like think about it, you have an entire summer camp. You can use so much materials to create a really creative and fascinating kill, but this movie just doesn't really take it to that level. Yeah, which is just like which really sucks because I thought you would really want to utilize this. You would really want to utilize like the summer camp and the environment that you have while you're in it. Yeah, but yeah, I was disappointed by that. I think yeah, I'm just gonna end at that point there. The pacing in this one is also a big negative. I didn't feel like this one was as paced out well as the first. Because like there's a large 20 minutes of this movie in the middle that I felt like could have been cut like to maybe 10 minutes, and it would have been like better. Because especially like there's like a good middle part in the second act, maybe even going into the third act, where it felt very bogged down. I felt like it was trying to draw it out for as long as possible, and I just felt like if you maybe would have cut like 10 minutes out of those 20 minutes that you had, I felt like it maybe you would have maybe you like pacing quicker. Um, but yeah, so yeah, the pacing I just did not really find really all that good in this one. Characters are a huge negative in this movie because there's just a lot of characters that show up just to get killed, and there's no characterization, there's no personality. This is our first time seeing this character, and like there's no sympathy, there's no there's no holy shit, like I care for this character, I don't want him to die. There's no there's none of that given to characters in this movie, and so it makes it really hard to feel sympathy for these characters when this is our only time seeing them at out of an hour and 43-minute runtime. And just it sucks to me because this movie I feel like you could have maybe showed more personality, showed chemistry between like the camp as a whole. Like I feel like maybe that would have been an interesting take to develop the characters, and I have seen that. I have seen that done really well, like in slasher movies. But yeah, it's just I didn't find any of the characters really all that engaging or interesting to follow. Their names I don't remember none of them as I'm reviewing this movie now. Um, so yeah, the characters were a huge letdown in this movie because they were so good in the first movie, and in this one we just get throwaway trash characters. That's all I have to say. Yeah, this one wasn't as good as the first, and I had higher expectations going into part two because of how much I loved part one. Um, and it's just all my expectations for part two just it didn't really reach my level of expectations. The characters I thought were much better handled. The pacing was brilliant in part one compared to part two. But yeah, I don't think part two. I think it's the weaker entry so far in this series. Um, but I don't think it's bad. I think this is still a perfectly watchable, summer camp slash. I just don't feel like this is going to be one that a lot of people will talk about like a year from now. When you have movies like Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, what's it called? The Burning, which all of them have a summer camp environment that is just that is so much more kind of fun and has characters that you actually give a shit about. It has great pacing and it's a great level of fun. There's a great level of energy. And yeah, I just don't feel like this one will be in that conversation of, you know, best summer camp slashes. So, but anyways, yeah, like it's still watchable. I would say, if you like part one, I would say like check this one out if you are a slasher fan. Like there are definitely sequences you will get enjoyment out of. It's just, yeah, for me, I wouldn't go out of my way to watch this movie again, but it's a good first watch. Yeah, if you're into summer camp slashes, yeah, I would probably, yeah, I'd probably recommend it. Just don't go into it expecting anything great. But anyways, yeah, they are my thoughts on Fear Street Part 2. So anyways, guys, if you have seen Fear Street Part 2 1978, let me know down in the comments, what did you think of this one? Did you like it? Did you think it was meh? Or did you really not like it? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. So anyways, guys, hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, bye.